stood before the wall, and it was a wall, stretching to infinity in either direction. It was dark, it was thick, it was massive, and it was solid. It was not something you could see into. Rather, it stopped sight, and it was directly in front of me. And the dark clouds rolled in the sky above. I had heard that the wall is the end, and when you reach it, you are stopped forever, and can only turn around and go back. I had arrived here by my own choosing, and I had no intention of ever going back. I was going through. I wanted to know what was on the other side. I am not a normal man. I began feeling along the dark wall, feeling for cracks, any opening, anything that might provide a handhold. I tripped over the occasional body of someone who had come to a dead stop. I could hear the moans of some who were still alive but could not move, and occasionally hands would grab at my legs and try to pull me down. And the dark, thick clouds rolled above. Weeks I continued to move farther and farther away from the piles of human wreckage, feeling along the wall for any opening. My clothes were torn and my fingers were bloodied. Scenes of love and home, of my own sunlit dreams and gentle fields, pulled me to go back. But I kept moving forward along the wall. Then one day, in a place so far away no one had ever been before, I felt a small hole. I quickly worked my finger into it and pulled. A tiny chink came loose in my hand. I put my fingers in and pulled again. I was feverish. Another piece came loose. I worked for several hours, pulling and prying until there was a good-sized hole, and I could feel a jagged edge inside. I reached in and grabbed hold of it with both hands, and using my feet as a brace, I jerked with all my might. A large block came loose and pinned me to the ground. I struggled to get it off and finally stood up, gasping for breath. I leaned over and reached into the hole and felt around. I could feel nothing. I had opened the entrance to a tunnel. I gathered all my fortitude together and I crawled in and began wiggling my way through the narrow enclosure. At last, some hope. For several hours I crawled through the dark, twisting tunnel. I couldn't see anything. I dared not stop, for the claustrophobia would make me mad. I crawled and sweated and felt my way along on my stomach. I clung to the hope of finding a way out. Then the tunnel ended. It just stopped. I began to panic. I couldn't turn around. I had just started to inch backward when I heard a roar, and the small space was filled with dust. The tunnel had collapsed behind me, and I was buried alive. I bit my hand to keep from screaming. I rolled into a ball and started to shake with terror. Then, somewhere, Deep inside me, I felt the cool resolve of a mountain breeze, and I remembered my intention to move forward, always forward. With a ferocious energy, I began clawing and ripping at the solidness in front of me. I scratched and dug until I could feel my strength failing. Screams of doubt and self-condemnation ripped at my innards like meat hooks shredding my intention. With bloodied hands, I stabbed into the mass once again. Only this time, I was grasping at cold, cold air. There was a faint light ahead. With all my final strength, I kicked out and broke through into the pale light of day. I fell out on the other side of the wall. A rush of cold, cold air almost took my breath away. I tried to calm down and regain my strength. Then I slowly looked around me. I was in the winter mountains. They were deep with snow. Everything was white. The trees were obscured by heavy fog and laden with snow. It was snowing now. Visibility was about 3 feet ahead of me, and it was very, very cold. The only thing separating me from the sub-zero cold was a one-piece electric silver spandex racing suit. I was standing in the starting gate of a downhill ski race. To my left, the starter huddled in his heavy goose-down clothing. Behind me stood the formless shapes of the other ski racers, the snow piling up on their heads and shoulders. They were all staring silently at me. I adjusted my helmet and goggles and looked down. I could hardly see the tips of my skis because of the fog. 15 seconds. The starter pointed at me. I placed my ski poles out by the tips. 10 seconds. I moved my skis back and forth to free the wax. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2. I kicked out with my legs and shot forward into the fog that closed behind me. I skated a few steps, then folded into an egg position to build speed. 50, 60, 70, 80 miles an hour. I couldn't feel the cold. I tried to keep my skis flat. The wind was pulling at me. A long sweeping right-hand turn just as 2 flags ripped by me like telephone poles past a train, and I shot out onto the steep bowl. Pounding over bumps, my legs like shock absorbers. A drop-off coming up. No air. Stay on the ground. Faster time. Push down. Push down. That's it. Damn, I missed it. I was airborne, still in a tuck. In the fog, I couldn't see the ground. And suddenly I broke out of the clouds. The sky was black and filled with bright stars. I was racing at just under light speed out in space, infinite space. I was in a speed vehicle, electric silver, long and extremely fast. The heavens were beautiful and vast all around me, dotted with bright stars. But I was interested only in the Horsehead Nebula that was looming up ahead. I raced toward it. Out of the clear and empty space, I dived into the lethal clouds that make up the Horsehead. But something was wrong. The clouds parted, and a planet dead ahead filled my windshield. I saw the blue seas and the green land masses. Luckily, the planet was uninhabited because I was going to hit it, but I had an idea. I tapped in max accelerate. The horrendous burst forward caused the corners of my mouth to touch my ears and the vehicle to elongate to needle thinness. I shot through the planet like an arrow through a hot air balloon, splitting it, causing it to fold in on itself and implode. The 4 remaining planets slipped their orbits and careened into their sun, and the whole solar system detonated, dispersing billions of flaming particles in every direction. No time to think of that now. I was mad. I'd miscalculated. I didn't often do that. I'd lost time, and there ahead of me was the final speed run down the middle of the galaxy. I flew to it and halted, but just for an instant. I tapped in mega light speed. I totally intended to win. The stars in the distance blurred, then were gone in a flash of light. Then I was flying blind, as though through thick fog. I stretched my legs down and felt my skis bump down on the steep hill. I made a sharp left turn, almost losing it, flailing my arms in the air, up on one ski, then pulled down and folded into a tight tuck, bouncing across the final bumps and headed straight as an arrow downhill. I was out of the fog. The finished banner loomed ahead. Crowds of people cheered along the fences. I trailed wisps of fog behind me like streamers as I streamed toward the finish. The banner flapped in the wind as I skied under it, and I slid to a stop. I'd made it. I'd done it. I'd broken through the wall of inertia and reached my goal.